Just by the elephant stand, a very large, very fat old gentleman was walking up and down on all fours, and on his back, on two small parallel seats, were 8 monkeys going for a ride. "Why, it's all upside down!" exclaimed Jane. The old gentleman gave her an angry look as he went past. "Upside down?" he snorted. "Me? Upside down? Certainly not! Gross insult!" The 8 monkeys laughed rudely. "Oh, please, I didn't mean you, but the whole thing," explained Jane, hurrying after him to apologise. "On ordinary days, the animals carry human beings, and now there's a human being carrying the animals. That's what I meant." But the old gentleman, shuffling and panting, insisted that he had been insulted and hurried away with the monkeys screaming on his back. Jane saw it was no good following him, so she took Michael's hand and moved onwards. They were startled when a voice almost at their feet hailed them. "Come on, you two! In you come! Let's see you dive for a bit of orange peel you don't want!" It was a bitter, angry voice, and looking down they saw that it came from a small black seal who was leering at them from a moonlit pool of water. "Come on now, and see how you like it," he said. But we can't swim," said Michael. "Can't help that," said the seal. "You should have thought of that before. Nobody ever bothers to find out whether I can swim or not, eh? What? What's that?" He spoke the last question to another seal who had emerged from the water and was whispering in his ear. "Who?" said the first seal. "Speak up!" The second seal whispered again. Jane caught the words, "special visitors, friends of—" and then no more. The first seal seemed disappointed, but he said politely enough to Jane and Michael, "Oh, beg pardon, pleased to meet you, beg pardon," and he held out his flipper and shook hands limply with them both. "Look where you're going, can't you?" he shouted as something bumped into Jane. She turned quickly and gave a little frightened start as she beheld an enormous lion. The eyes of the lion brightened as he saw her. "Oh, I say," he began. "I didn't know it was you. This place is so crowded tonight, and I'm in such a hurry to see the humans fed, I'm afraid I didn't look where I was going. Coming along? You oughtn't to miss it, you know." "Perhaps," said Jane politely, "you'd show us the way." She was a little uncertain of the lion, but he seemed kindly enough, and after all, she thought, everything is topsy-turvy tonight. "Delighted," said the lion in rather a mincing voice, and he offered her his arm. She took it, but to be on the safe side, she kept Michael beside her. He was such a round, fat little boy, and after all, she thought, lions are lions. "Does my mane look nice?" asked the lion as they moved off. "I had it curled for the occasion." Jane looked at it. She could see that it had been carefully oiled and combed into ringlets. "Very," she said, "but isn't it rather odd for a lion to care about such things? I thought—" "What? My dear young lady, the lion, as you know, is the king of the beasts. He has to remember his position, and I personally am not likely to forget it. I believe a lion should always look his best, no matter where he is. This way." And with a graceful wave of his forepaw, he pointed towards the big cat house and ushered them in at the entrance. Jane and Michael caught their breaths at the sight that met their eyes. The great hall was thronged with animals. Some were leaning over the long bar that separated them from the cages. Some were standing on the seats that rose in tiers opposite. There were panthers and leopards, wolves, tigers and antelopes, monkeys and hedgehogs, wombats, mountain goats and giraffes, and an enormous group composed entirely of kittiwakes and vultures. "Splendid, isn't it?" said the lion proudly. "Just like the dear old jungle days. But come along, we must get good places." And he pushed his way through the crowd, crying, "Gangway, gangway," and dragging Jane and Michael after him. Presently, through a little clearing in the middle of the hall, they were able to get a glimpse of the cages. Why, said Michael, opening his mouth very wide. "They're full of human beings." And they were. In one cage, 2 large middle-aged gentlemen in top hats and striped trousers were prowling up and down, anxiously gazing through the bars, as though they were waiting for something. Children of all shapes and sizes, from babies in long clothes upwards, were scrambling about in another cage. The animals outside regarded these with great interest, and some of them tried to make the babies laugh by thrusting their paws or their tails in through the bars. A giraffe stretched his long neck out over the heads of the other animals and let a little boy in a sailor suit tickle its nose. In a third cage, 3 elderly ladies in raincoats and galoshes were imprisoned. One of them was knitting, but the other 2 were standing near the bars shouting at the animals and poking at them with their umbrellas. "Nasty brutes, go away, I want my tea!" screamed one of them. "Isn't she funny?" said several of the animals, and they laughed loudly at her. "Jane, look," said Michael, pointing to the cage at the end of the row. "Isn't that—" "Admiral Boom!" said Jane, looking very surprised. And Admiral Boom it was. He was ramping up and down in his cage, coughing and blowing his nose and spluttering with rage. "Blast me gizzard! All hands to the pump! Land ho! Heave away there! Blast me gizzard!" shouted the Admiral. Every time he came near the bars, a tiger prodded him gently with a stick, and this made Admiral Boom swear dreadfully. "But how did they all get in there?" Jane asked the lion. "Lost," said the lion, "or rather left behind. These are the people who've dawdled and been left inside when the gates were shut. Got to put 'em somewhere, so we keep 'em here. He's dangerous, that one there. Nearly did for his keeper not long ago. Don't go near him." And he pointed at Admiral Boom. "Stand back, please, stand back, don't crush, make way, please." Jane and Michael could hear several voices crying these words loudly. "Aha! Now they're going to be fed," said the lion, excitedly pressing forward into the crowd. "Here come the keepers." 4 brown bears, each wearing a peaked cap, were trundling trolleys of food along the little corridor that separated the animals from the cages. "Stand back there," they said whenever an animal got in the way. Then they opened a small door in each cage and thrust the food through on pronged forks.